Now today I'm going to start with TestNG. Okay, I've taught you little bit of Java, little bit of Selenium, that how can you build your XPaths and all. Okay, today we will talk about TestNG, that what is TestNG is, how is it useful, and what all we can do with it. Okay, look, the thing is, if somebody asks you to build a project, okay, if somebody gives you say 5000 test cases and he tells you that fine, go and automate these 5000 test cases, so what you do is that you actually go and build your test cases. You build set up test case 1, then you build test case 2, test case 3, 4. Okay, so you build one different test cases and might be you have to execute them one after another. Okay, so the requirements can be different, that you want to serially run the test cases, parallelly run the test cases, okay, optionally run the test cases, that is you out of 10,000 you just have to run say 8,000, you don't have to run 2,000 test cases, or you have to rerun failed test cases. Okay, so how do you do this? Alright, apart from this, these, right, you have to automate these test cases and you have to do all these things, and apart from this you might have to read the data from Excel file, okay, or from JSON file, fine, or from properties file, YML file. Okay, there are different types of files from which you can actually end up reading data. Fine, so how do you manage this? Okay, how do you manage to read the data and pass it over to the test cases? And then I have explained you this, like this diagram earlier as well, right? We have to generate the reports and all, everything. Okay, we have to have screenshots in the reports, logs in the reports, then we have to integrate maybe Grid and Jenkins into the project. Okay, this project should be a Maven project. Okay, so there are different types of requirements. Alright, if you talk about Selenium as a tool, whatever Selenium we have done till date, you must have realized that Selenium has got inbuilt commands which can help you interact with the browser. Whatever code we have written, okay, this code was having some inbuilt commands which was helping us interact with the browser. Fine, but this code over here never gave us the options for reading data, reporting or something. Selenium only has got commands which will help you interact with the browser. Okay, this will be Selenium. Okay, Selenium will not help you build the test cases, rather only the commands to interact with with the browser. It will not help you for Jenkins connection or Excel reading or something. Okay, even the test case building. So what we do is that we come up with a centralized controller in between. Okay, and that's what we are going to learn today. Okay, we are going to learn about TestNG. TestNG is a controller. Okay, what it does is that it reads the data, it calls the test cases, it can also help you optionally run the test cases or rerun failed test cases. Okay, serially or parallelly execute the test cases. It can help you generate the reports and integrate with different other tools. Okay, so it's very important tool. Okay, this is just not about learning Selenium. It is about learning lot of other tools apart from Selenium. Okay, generally in the market, apart from TestNG, people use BDD frameworks like Cucumber, Serenity, or JUnit is also there. Okay, right now I am just talking about TestNG. Okay, TestNG was not made for Selenium. Okay, it's a unit testing framework, a general framework. We use it with Selenium because it helps us to build the test cases and makes our work easy. Fine. So now the first thing is that you have to install TestNG. Okay, the first thing is you have to install TestNG. For installing TestNG, you have to go to Google, type install TestNG. Okay, and you will get the official website testng.org. Okay, it gets installed as a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay, go to the Eclipse section. You will see install the plugin link. Okay, scroll down and you will see this URL. Fine, you copy this URL. Okay, open up Eclipse and you have to install this thing as a plugin inside Eclipse. Fine, you go to install new software under help. Fine, paste this URL. Okay, and hold on, just a minute, it will take time, right? So TestNG will come up. Okay, you expand this and please check the version. If the version is 7.2 or more than 7.0, don't install it. Okay, look, the stable version is 7.0. These versions 7.2 or something are giving issues. I have seen that. Please install 7.0. Okay, so how do you do that? If you have already installed TestNG, you will have to uninstall it. Okay, you can click on already installed over here and scroll down and you can uninstall it from here. Okay, otherwise if you don't have it installed, then don't install this one. Just copy this link and open it in browser. Okay, you will see the link for 7.0 over here. Click on that and again copy the link. Okay, paste it here and you will see TestNG 7.0. It is installed in my machine, so it's saying all items installed. So you just have to select it, click on next, next, next. The Eclipse might restart. In between it might throw an error as well, but just ignore that error. Okay, and this is the URL. I am giving it to everyone on chat. Okay, please take this URL for TestNG. Okay, so once you have installed TestNG, your Eclipse will restart and under Window, Show View, Other. Okay, I will have under Java, I will have TestNG. Okay, so this is how you can verify if it is correctly installed or not. Alright, so before we move further with Selenium or something, I am teaching you this because you need to understand that how TestNG works, how this whole thing works, because that's how you will be able to do the validations and build the test cases and all. Okay, now before that, okay, there is one thing I just need to discuss with you. Right, so the main objective is, I have this small PPT with me. We have to learn to build the test cases with TestNG and the different annotations and features, how to pass test cases, fail test cases, how to skip the test cases, how to parameterize the test cases. That is, if you have a single test case and if you want to run it with multiple sets of data again and again, right? You want to run one test case but multiple times with different sets of data. That is known as parameterization. Batch running the test cases, that is, if you have 100 test cases, how do you run them together? How to parallelly run them, how to optionally run them, okay? How to generate the reports, okay? We will learn about extend reports and all. How to rerun the failed test cases, okay? And we will make a small project structure with reports, test cases, test suites, okay, and understanding TestNG and set up a project structure. Okay, that's what we are going to do. Fine. Now out here, these are the different steps. Okay, step 1 is that we'll be learning about TestNG. Okay, now the thing is, I have distributed the whole scenario into 4 steps. Okay, first is TestNG, then we'll learn about Maven and the Maven configuration in TestNG, how to create project executables, running failed test cases, parallel execution and all. Then we will come over to extent reporting, okay, and then building a project structure. Alright, so let's start with this. Fine, this is not one day work, okay, although in the schedule I had written 1 day, it might take more than a day. Okay, now I'm going to create a new Java project, okay, and call it TestNG tutorial. Fine, and over here under the source folder I'll make a new package known as test cases. Fine, and let's discuss one by one different features. Okay, how to build the test cases. Alright, so under the test cases package I'll make a new class known as purchase or book ticket test. Fine, so this is a class representing booking of some ticket online. Okay, so first of all you have annotations in TestNG. You define the annotations with @test. I'll make a function known as public void search flight. Fine, and this is a test annotation @test. If you move your mouse over it, you will get the option to add the TestNG library in the project. Okay, so you add the TestNG library. Alright, move the mouse again and you will get the option to import the test annotation. Fine, so you import the test annotation. Fine, so this TestNG is added as a library. It's got nothing but some jars of TestNG. Okay, right. You can also add this into library by right clicking on the project, going to the properties. Okay, go to Java build path, and from add library section under the libraries tab you can add TestNG from here. Click on next and it will get added, but generally you can move the mouse over this and it will get added. And this is known as the annotation @test. This represents that this function is a test case. Okay, if I just write over here searching flight, generally inside this function we will write our Selenium code. Okay, so when you run this, when you right click on this Java file and you run it as a TestNG test, okay, you will get the option. When you right click, you'll get the option to run it as a TestNG test. You run it and you will see that it's printing searching flight, and TestNG gives you a proper output in Eclipse saying that the total test cases which we have executed are 1, failures are 0, and skips are 0. Okay, it also gives you the results in form of this graphical format. Fine. And moreover, if you refresh the project, there is a test output folder generated. Okay, if I expand this folder, there are many files which are generated under this. Okay, one of the files is index.html, which holds, you can open it with maybe a web browser, it will hold the reports, default TestNG reports for the test case. We don't use these reports. These reports are not, so user friendly. Okay, so we don't use them. Alright, we use other reports which are extent reports. I will talk about those reports later on. Fine. So we have this TestNG tutorial project in which we just had one test case in this one Java file. We executed it and automatically it generates this test output folder. There is one file known as TestNG results.xml. I will just open in normal text editor. This file holds the XML format of the results, that you executed this particular project, the status of the project was pass. Okay, with this normal XML results you can generate better reports. Okay, but we will come to that later on. Many people do that. Many people generate different kinds of reports with this. Okay, I am not going into that right now. Alright, so just let it be like this. Fine. Now you can have other test cases as well. You search for a flight, then you can have public void select the flight. Okay, so this is another test case which will actually select the flight which you after searching. Fine. And there can be one more test case, that is book ticket. Fine. So you have got these three test cases in this one Java file. Okay, and booking flight ticket. You can run them. You can right click on the Java file again, select run as TestNG test, and all the three test cases will be executed. Okay, but if you look at the order will not be the same which you had mentioned. We were actually under the impression, just a minute, we were under the impression that this particular function search flight will be executed first, then select flight, then book ticket. But this is not the case. Okay, don't think the order will remain the same. First booking flight, then search, then select. It's executing like this. Okay, so you have to prioritize the test cases. You have to tell TestNG that this is my test case with the priority as 1, and then this is the test case with priority as 2, and this is the test case with priority as 3. So when you run this, this will run in the order. First search flight, then select flight, and then booking flight ticket. Okay, it has executed this in this particular order. So you have to maintain the order of the test cases. Alright, fine. I am not writing any Selenium code. I am not doing anything. Okay, in these 4 steps, I will not actually talk about Selenium. Fine, I had talked about in the first few classes. Once this is finished, maybe this thing takes 2 classes or 2.5 classes, 3 classes. Then we will continue for next 10 to 12 classes on Selenium and TestNG. Okay, but yes, learn how to build the test cases, how to prioritize the test cases. Look, I have prioritized them. Fine. Then I'll make, suppose, a new class. Right. How to have some assertions and validations. Okay, how to do few validations. For example, I make a simple test, say login test. How do I fail the test case? How do I pass it? Okay, by default the test case passes. Fine, but how do I fail it? Okay, so we have this login test. Fine, and out here you can just import this test annotation. Fine. Now when we are testing as testers, generally what's the case when we are doing manual testing? You have some actual value in the application, and in the application you have some expected value. Fine. The actual value or the expected value is generally read from some external file, maybe Excel file or a properties file. The actual value is read from Selenium. Okay, for example, you have to get the title of the page or some text, then driver.findElement.getTitle, driver.findElement.getText. You can give commands like that. Okay, so you have some actual value and expected value. You have to compare this. If they don't match, then suppose you have to fail the test case. So for that we have the assert commands. You write assert.say assert equals function. There is a assert class in TestNG. Assert equals is a static function inside this particular class. You can call it directly with the class name. You see this? Assert class is there. Okay, so you write assert.assert equals and you give the actual value and the expected value. If both of them are equal, right now both of them are ABC, and if you run this test, then this test is going to pass. But if both of them are not equal, I give a different value, then the test is going to fail. It will say expected ABC but found ABCX. Okay, so assertions will help you to fail the test case. Alright, and assert.assert equals function compares two values. But the thing is, suppose over here I print these two lines. Right, I'll say before and after. If I run this code, then you will see that before is printed but after is not printed. This is because the line on which the exception comes up, the control stops the test cases, the test case stops on this line. If you are batch running test cases, if you have say 100 test cases, if the assertion fails in one of the test cases, then that test case will stop and the next one will continue. So assertion failure stops the test case execution. But at times there are situations where you don't want to stop the execution. You want that the test should continue. Maybe the failure is not a critical failure. It's just maybe a spelling mistake on the website. Okay, so that can also be achieved. I'm going to talk about that in some time. Okay, so assertion will stop the control over here on this particular line. There are more assertions. Fine. There are more assertion functions. Like we have an assertion function like assert dot assert true. Okay, over here you have to give a condition and a message. The condition can be like for example, I'm just temporarily writing 5 greater than 3, and this message can be your error message. Assert true wants that this condition should evaluate to true. Okay, this condition should evaluate to true. If you run this code, this thing passes. Before and after are executed because 5 greater than 3 is true. But if I write 5 greater than 13 and if I run this will actually fail. Error message did not expect to find true but found false. It will say error message printed. It will print this particular error message in the reports. Okay, this error message word will come up in the report. So whatever you write, this error message will display over here. Alright, but how do we use this kind of assertion? Maybe in Selenium you can call a function is element present. Just taking a example. Okay, you can send say the ID of the element. This function returns you false, that the element is not present. Okay, then you can report this particular error message. You can report this error message. How do we make this function is element present? Right, I will talk about that later on, not right now. Okay, but yes, assert.asserttrue is one of the functions which wants that the condition should evaluate to true. Okay, if it is not, then you can simply fail the test case. Okay, sometimes
when it's true, it doesn't display any message.
yeah,
It will display error message only when it's not true.
yes, only if it is not true. If then only the test will fail, and on failure the error message is thrown.
Is it possible to customize this to display a message in case it's positive it passed?
Yeah, in case you generally want to log in your test cases. Okay, suppose you want to print some messages like I'm starting the login test, I have reached the login page, or the validation for the element is like the element was found successfully. You can do that in extent reports. Okay, when I talk about extent reports, I will talk about the logging in the reports. Okay, so right now just how to pass or fail the test case, I'm just talking about that. Now the thing is, sometimes you are very sure that the test case has failed. For example, you click on a link and you get a 404 error. Okay, so you are very sure that the test case has failed. Fine, or you had to you click on a link and some different page opens up rather than the original page which had to open. Okay, so you can fail the test case directly without any validation as well with the help of assert.fail function. This will not validate anything, simply fail the test case. You can give some reason for failing over here. Okay, so when you run this, So this will fail the test case and some reason for failing will come up in the reports. Okay, this is not the official report, this is just a message in this section. Okay, we can also get this message in the reports. I will talk about that. Fine. So primarily with assertions, there are three functions which are very useful to us: assert equals, assert true, and this fail function. Fine. But the only problem with assert is that it will stop the execution. Okay. And any one of these three fails, okay, it will just stop the execution on that particular line. So if it is a critical failure, you can use this. If you want to validate something which is very critical, but in case it is not critical, then you cannot. Okay, sometimes you want to report multiple failures in one test case. Alright, so you cannot do that with this assert. For that, we have another class known as soft assert. You create the object of this particular class. Fine, you import it. Okay, with soft assert, you can report multiple failures. For example, I write over here soft assert dot assert equals. These three functions are present in soft assert as well. Okay, I compare some actual value with expected value. Just a minute. Then I write say soft assert dot assert true. Fine, I give some condition 5 greater than 10 and failure message here. This is my failure message. This is same, assert true is same as this one. Okay, and maybe I can write over here soft assert dot fail and some reason for failing I can give over here. Looks same, but the thing is it will help you report multiple failures. This line over here, this will pass, this will fail over here, this thing is going to fail, and this thing is going to fail. So this will report 3 failures in the test. Okay, but the most important thing is that in the end you have to write soft assert dot fail. If you don't write this line, then the failures will not be reported. Sorry, not fail, I'm sorry, assert all. You have to write this in the end. Okay, if you don't.
Technically, those report asserts or soft asserts are just for debugging purpose. We're not reporting to the stakeholders and to the clients and right?
No, we are not. Look, we are not actually right now. Whatever we are running, the reports we are seeing inside Eclipse. Okay, if I run this project, it says 3 failures. These are the 3 failure messages it is giving me. Okay, it fails the test. Failures are 1. The 1 test case got executed. It got failed. 3 failure messages are being displayed over here. But we are not generating any HTML file or any HTML report which can be shown to a client. Okay, that we are going to do in case of extant reports. Fine. For example, I'll show you. Just a minute. Let me show you dummy report example. So these are this is just a dummy example of the report. See, this is the report. These are HTML reports. Okay, these reports can have screenshots in them. These reports will have logs, timestamps, everything. Okay, we will develop them later on. Okay, we cannot just directly jump over to this. It can have multiple test cases. Alright, fine. So I will come over to this as well, but right now just inside the Eclipse you can have, yeah, it's okay, you can have multiple failures being reported inside this particular test. Later on, these multiple failures we can put up in those reports as well, extent reports. Fine. So you have this particular test in which you can assert multiple failures. 3 failures over here came up in the results as well. Fine. So it's up to you, like you want to use it critically or you want to use it this way, right? It's completely up to you. Okay. Now, if I move ahead, fine, and talk about dependency between the test cases. Okay. For example, you had this book ticket test. It had 3 test cases. Suppose some failure happens in search flight test. Okay. If I write over here assert dot fail. Okay. Right. Something like flight or some error. If I run this, then you will see that this search flight fails, but select flight and book flight have executed. But that's not what I want. Okay, we have the tests prioritized. Okay, search flight is getting executed, but select flight and book ticket are not getting executed. Sorry, this all 3 of them are getting executed, but this is failing and these 2 tests are passing. So these 2 tests should not be executing if this one is failing. Okay, so what we do is that we write over here depends on methods. Okay, we make it dependent on search flight. Okay, the third one we make it dependent on search flight as well as select flight. This means that, suppose this for this function, this means that if search flight is failing, then this test case will not be executed, it will be skipped. And for book ticket, if any one of these test cases gets failed, it will be skipped. Okay, so when you run this, you will see that both the other test cases are skipped. The first one has failed. Okay, if the first one never fails, then they will get executed. Okay, see the passes are 3. Fine, so they get successfully executed. So you can put dependent test cases like this, prioritize them and introduce dependency between them. Okay, now you can also skip the test case. Okay, for skipping the test case, you just have to give this line throw new skip exception. Okay, you can give the reason, skipping the test, some reason. If you write this as the first line, okay, this will skip the test case. Okay, just a minute. This is obviously showing an error because you are actually throwing an exception on this line. Okay, and Java says that fine, if you are throwing some exception on this line, why do you have to write the line after that? It is an unreachable code. Fine, so you can skip the test case by writing this particular line, and if this test case gets skipped, the other two automatically they get skipped. Yellow means skipping of the test cases. Okay, right. Now generally we have say 1000 test cases and you have to execute say 100 of them. We actually keep some flag. Okay, yes or no, whether it has to be executed. This flag is kept in some external file, maybe Excel file or something. Okay, based on the value of this flag, that if the flag is equal to say yes, then you skip the test case. Okay, we generally adopt this way. Alright, we keep an external file in which from which the flag is read. Okay, we don't just go and copy paste these lines inside the test cases which we have to skip. Okay, so we keep a list of test cases in some external file and just change the flag over there, and when we batch run the test cases, okay, the test cases are skipped based on the conditional flag. Alright, I will come over to that. Okay, not now, in the coming time I will definitely come over to this thing. Okay, in the framework section you will understand it better. But yes, for time being you can understand that this line can skip the test cases. Okay, and dependency between the test cases can also be introduced which depends on methods. Alright, now there are annotations in TestNG. Okay, which you need to understand about. Right, I'll make a new class known as TestNG Annotations, or say registration test. Let's give it a different name. It's quite easy, it is not a difficult thing. Only thing is that you have to know about the functionalities. Okay, and whatever functionality I'm teaching you, believe me, this will be more than enough for Selenium. Okay, so this is my test. Okay, I write @test public void do register. TestNG was not made for Selenium. It's just a unit testing framework. We use it with Selenium. Okay, you must have realized by now, without Selenium I'm able to use it. Okay, now suppose I'm doing some registration stuff out here. Now in TestNG you have other annotations as well. Okay, if I right click, go to new, other, and under TestNG I select TestNG class and go to next. You see these are all the annotations in TestNG. Predefined annotations. I'm going to talk about them. Okay, for example, we have the annotation before test. Okay, I'll make a function like a public void say initialize, import the annotation. Okay, I'll just print before test in this, and another annotation after test. The name of this annotation must be giving you an idea that what it does. Right. Before test and after test, if I run this, before, as the name suggests, before test will run before the test case and after test will run after the test case. The location or position of these annotations, it doesn't matter. You can place them anywhere. There is a predefined order in which they work. Okay. So before test and after test will execute before and after executing the test case, no matter whether the test case has executed successfully or not, or it has failed. Generally what we do is that, suppose if I'm writing a test case in which I open the browser and then in the end of the test case I am closing the browser and some critical failure happens in between. Assert dot, we use the assertions like hard assertions, assert equals. Some critical failure happens in between because of which the test stops. So what will happen? The browser will not get closed. So what we do is that, suppose we can, in before test I can open the browser, in after test I can close the browser. Even if the test is stopping on this line, it's not executing. Out of 50 lines of the test case, the error came on the 40th line. Okay, it did not execute completely, but after test will definitely work and it will close the browser. So some pre-conditions and post conditions you can run, okay, in this, right, and the annotations before test and after test will certainly execute. Okay, similarly, like I have, say, multiple test cases. I have two test cases in this file, do register and verify registration. Okay, right, suppose I have got these two test cases, right, and this has got the priority as 1 and this has got the priority as 2. So when you run the registration test, you will see that again the test cases execute in between. Before test and after test they execute in the beginning and in the end. Alright, so before test and after test will execute just once, before all the test cases and after all the test cases, in a single Java file, not under multiple Java files, in a single Java file. Okay, then just a minute, I hope nobody asked any question because I am not able to see the WebEx chat. Right, yeah, I see the question now. I'm sorry, I was not able to see the WebEx chat. If the assertion fails in one test case, does it stop the execution of all? No. If one test case is failing, the other test cases will not stop. Later on we will run all these Java files in batch. Right now I am just running one Java file at a time. Okay, later on I will run all the Java files in batch. If any of the test cases in any of the Java file fails, the other test cases will keep on executing until or unless, like, you have not put dependency of the test cases like this in the same file. You have not put the dependency. Alright, so this is how this thing works. Out here you have other annotations as well. Okay, for example, you have annotation like @ before method. This is also important. Okay, I'll write @ before. There is a predefined order in which these annotations work, no matter where you write them in your code. After method, public void after, fine, and you print this, fine. So when you run this registration test, okay, you right click on it, run it as registration test. You will see that if you observe carefully, before method and after method, it executes again and again before and after every test case. Okay, but before test and after test just once, in the very beginning, in the very end, but before method and after method will run for every test case. So maybe I individually, for every test case, I want to initialize the reports. I can do that over here. Okay, for every test case, maybe I want to initialize the reports, and in after method I can finalize the reports. Okay, so there are different usages for this. We will keep on seeing the usages as we proceed. Fine. If you have any questions, then please let me know. I'll stop here for today.